All right, if you want true miracle in a can, look for coolant for your car that one size fits everything on the planet. Well, how does that work? I'm not quite sure because some coolants have silicates and sulfates and so on. Others only have silicates, some only have sulfates, some have none of those things, and they all seem to have some special additives. So the reality of all of this, maybe this one-size-fits-all miracle product, maybe the miracle is in the container itself. You see, I think what might be going on here is that the container has some way that as you get ready to pour the stuff into the car, it scans the car to see what make and model of the car it is, and then it changes the contents to match the car. Well, in reality, yes, there is a place for these universal coolants. All right, there's lots of miracle products for cars these days, not the least of which is a one-size-fits-all coolant. Now, if you have a late model car, something that you're going to keep for a very long period of time, I wouldn't recommend this. I'd recommend that you use the coolant that is designed specifically for your car. Now, the reason is that although the one-size-fits-all isn't going to immediately damage the car, it may not give you all of the protection on your individual car that it actually needs. You see, coolants, well, they have different additives and so on, depending on the type of materials used in the cooling system, the types of plastic and metals and so on. And many of these compounds are vehicle specific. If you have an older car, well, of course, the cooling system is not like it was when it was brand new. It has deteriorated over a period of time, and it isn't as important to have all of these vehicle-specific additives. So go ahead, save a couple bucks, use the universal coolant. Now, the big thing with coolant, though, whatever type you use, make sure that you monitor it regularly. Now, one of the more common things that we see in owner's manuals where it says that the coolant for your car is designed to last up to 5 years or 150,000 miles. Okay, but what everybody reads in that seems to be that your coolant will last 150,000 miles or 5 years, not that it could, which is what the manual is actually saying. So what do? They ignore the coolant forever. They don't check it, they don't look at the condition of it, they don't flush the cooling system, none of that stuff. So, bottom line is, they wind up with stuff like this in their cooling system. Looks like mud, and you can see all the bits they're stuck to the side of this jar. Really nasty looking stuff. Now, over here, we have the source of that nastiness. When we don't flush the cooling system and we don't renew the coolant like it should be done, what we wind up with is we take this water pump right here and we look at this impeller, nice round piece of metal, and we convert it into this eaten up, destroyed water pump. So when we start seeing this coolant change color, and that seems to be the criteria for everybody, they want to wait until the coolant changes color and then they say, oh, gee, I need to change my coolant. Well, you should be changing it before it changes color, because guess what? This change in color, that came from this metal. The change in color, it's dissolved engine. So do you really want to dissolve parts inside your engine before you change your coolant? I don't think so. Not really the smart way to go. Now, the big thing with checking coolant, certainly you want to look at the color, but you also want to check the freeze protection. And more important, you want to use a test strip such as we have in this bottle. Now what this will do is it will check the pH and alkalinity and all these different things in the coolant, and it'll tell you long before it gets nasty like this, it'll tell you when it's time to change the coolant. In lieu of waiting and using test strips and so on, what you could do is just set up a program. You say, well, I'm going to flush my cooling system every 2 years or every 3 years or something like that, and I'm going to monitor it in between. But don't go too long with the coolant. See, modern cooling systems have a lot of plastics and various types of seals and aluminum and so on in them, and these materials are easily damaged if you let the coolant get too bad. See, one of the things that happens with coolant is its pH drops. And the lower the pH, the more acidic the coolant. The more acidic the coolant, the more damage it does to metal and plastic parts inside the cooling system. So establish a regular routine of servicing your cooling system. And if it's a relatively new car, well, all of these different colors and so on, they represent different brands, different formulas of coolant. It would be a good idea to spend a couple dollars more and buy the proper coolant for your car. Among other things, it'll help protect your warranty or your extended warranty. And if you have a question or a comment, drop me a line at radio@goss-garage.com.